What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the other side of the Firewall Podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest of cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who've made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Tynes.
What's up? What's up?
And Daniel Acevedo.
How's it going, guys?
What's going on? So please continue to tune in throughout the week. So Monday, Tuesday are topics, Wednesday discussion, Thursdays Ask a CISSP, and then Fridays everything else, movies, books, games, all that good stuff. But without further ado, I'll give it to Shannon.
All right, everybody. So this article comes from cyberscoop.com, written by Greg Otto. And the title of this one is Study Finds Significant Uptick, that is in quotes, in cybersecurity disclosures to SEC, right? So here's the thing. So they talk about how, yes, there is an uptick in it, but they also note in here that less than 10% of the disclosures address the material impacts of the security incidents, right? So what they kind of reference in here is, we did the story on it with the CBK that happened over the summer, right? And like the car dealerships and stuff like that, where they were having issues doing things. And I actually had CDK, excuse me, I said CDK. I had some issues with it because my car was actually at the dealership getting some work done on it, and they couldn't do something as simple as like print up like my work order on the work they accomplished. So it was a lot of handwritten stuff, which I keep all of that stuff anyway. So if they try to say, hey, I don't know what's going on here, I'll be like, hey, that's because you guys were using CDK and y'all were CDK Global and y'all were down. You know what I mean? Pretty much the gist of this is that, yes, the cybersecurity incidents and the reporting of them are up, but what they're kind of harping on is especially when it came to the CDK, right? They said that they didn't expect the incident to have any material impact, and that just wasn't true. It was so many car dealerships that were using them. They had to report these types of things, and then what they're doing is they're downplaying it, and we know why this is, right? Like it comes to public trust. We talk about this on the podcast several times, right? We talked about if you lose public trust, right, you run the risk of people saying, okay, I'm going to look elsewhere for what I may need, this, that, and the third. So they're like, yeah, we did have a hack, but don't worry about it. It wasn't that bad. And that one I remember being down for a little while. I don't remember it being like a quick 1 or 2 day thing. You know what I mean? It was a little bit of time for that one, but they need to have more honesty in what they consider the materiality, I guess you could call it, of what's going on with these, because these companies, look, it's yes, you may lose some trust. I get it, right? But like if you're doing what you need to be doing in the first place, right, and you're taking care of your cybersecurity and you're not being lazy about it, you don't have anything to worry about, right? There's different avenues you can take, where it would be cyber insurance, to try to help you out when it comes time where somebody's trying to ransomware you, right? Because I want to say it was like $25 million was paid out for this one, I think, right? For
it was
$25 million ransom. Yeah. So, I mean,
good payday.
Yeah, I know. It's a good payday, right? I don't want to say crime pays, but it seems to be paying fairly handsome. We've done a story on that as well, right? About the billions of dollars that's being made from this. But yeah, this is the significant uptick in reporting. Yeah, that is a good thing. But the fact that they're saying it's not a real material impact, I got a little bit of a problem with that, right? Like you being the business that's suffering from it, you're not going to be the most honest about it. You know what I mean? But Daniel, what's your thoughts on this, man?
No, definitely. This is a thing that's kind of, I wouldn't say plagued, but I think industry and organizations are kind of circling and finding the importance.
You're right.
Not so much the SEC, right? So I had a colleague, he worked for a company, and their cyber department was doing this joined at the hip with their trade compliance team. So for their supply chain and their third-party suppliers, pretty much they wanted their third-party suppliers to disclose kind of any cyber incidents for this exact matter, right? So they're involved, since they worked with defense contracting, or they had contracts that worked with that, even though there was no classified materials that flow down, up and down. But the mere fact that the end product on the main company side was, they wanted to ensure that even if it was like PII information, nothing on their side was going to get disclosed. Or even if it was like a part of a part of a part of something that went to somewhere that ultimately got attached to the final product that went to the government, they wanted to have a good rap on it. Now, it's not SEC, but probably that's getting disclosed. If it's a private organization, to DCSA, or if it's criminal, it's FBI. But better ladder communication between businesses is always going to be better and not worse. So I would say the fact that I understand why companies would play it off, hey, nothing is wrong, it's a small hack, no big information is being disclosed. I think at the end of the day, that's going to hurt them more than help them, because everybody gets hacked, right? You're always going to have cyber incidents. It's almost impossible. But how you react to it and how you're able to pivot and come back from it and clean it up and then disclose everything you found, I think that puts you at a better light in the public interest eyes, especially if you have stock interest and those kind of things, than just trying to sweep it under the rug. I think it's going to hurt you more than help you. But what do you think, Ryan? Is my mind in the right train of thought here, or am I just shooting from the hip?
No, I think you guys are both spot on. I think the problem is always going to be that public companies lie because investors panic. So it's always in their best interest to give you the information as slowly as possible and try to bury it. It used to be within quarterly reports, right? Or annual reports. They would just kind of sweep it under something else. Now it's like, no, you have 48 hours to disclose what has happened. It doesn't give them a lot of time to sugarcoat it or hide it underneath something else. So I think the process is definitely necessary, but I just think it's you're putting it on a not area, but I guess a group of people who have to always fabricate something. You know what I mean? Like they're magicians at what they do because of public trust, and they don't want the stock prices to slide or fall or crash. So they're always sugarcoating something, and now you're putting the onus on them to now sugarcoat something new until they get the rhythm down of how do we lie about this as quickly as possible, or at least downplay it. Right? It's going to be kind of a weird type of situation, right? You have the security team or the CIO, CTO, whomever is telling the board like, hey, this is what happened, and then they have to come to some kind of determination of how do we disclose this without having our people run away. And it's only going to be, I think the process will become more streamlined, but then we start to add third parties into it, then it becomes even more of a nightmare because like you said, everybody's getting breached. So someone down your supply chain has some kind of issue, and then they tell you, and now you have to, figure out how to sugarcoat that potentially because they're your number one third party vendor. So there's a lot there to unpack, but the great part about it is it's not my job. So I hate to be so cold about it, but hey, you have to figure it out because now there are literal rules that will, add the fines, potential prison time. So you have to figure out how you're going to do this and also keep people from jumping off the ship. So
yeah, but I don't. So the thing, just disclosing it though to the SEC itself is not going to be a disclosure to the public yet. But they have to disclose it to SEC because if it's a cyber attack per se, right, and it's a known big bad actor, one of the China ones, Fuzzy Bears, or one of the well-known ones, and there's other things out in industry that's also happening similar, then the government entities that need to take action upon this need that information to be able to act in just. Or am I wrong?
No, I agree. So they don't have to necessarily broadcast it to the investors directly, but it's out there, right? The SEC reports
eventually it will. Eventually it will.
Yeah. So if, let's say, it's an investment firm or something like that, or you have a hedge fund or someone is reading these SEC reports and then is making decisions on, okay, this is how we're going to pivot everybody's accounts in this, Roth or whatever that these people are in to mitigate risk. So someone is going to then have the ability to steer the ship that's out of your hands. So you have to kind of control as much as you can control. And I think that this is putting them in a bind in a good way for, the public anyway. But you're going to say something, Shannon?
Yeah, so you hope the SEC is going to do right? But I mean, unless you're GameStop, right? You're not going to do right? Unless you're GameStop, the SEC is not going to do it. But you hope the SEC is going to do right in that. No, we don't want you to be the one to determine whether or not this is something, because the SEC is paying attention to what's like publicly traded and what's on the stock market, and you would hope they would keep you from cheating people that are investing in these companies. But again, I'm not one to sit here and say everybody's completely honest all the time, but it's just a hope.
Yeah.
Right.
But to another point. So Daniel, like what you were saying, like the instance you brought up, like that is somebody keeping them honest. It's not necessarily another organization, or another like federal organization like the SEC. But it's like, hey, you report it, and we'll determine whether or not it's something that has far-reaching effects. Because even with the CDK thing, like my instance was me having been an issue to where, okay, I didn't get paperwork typed up or whatever in the system. It may not even be in there, right? Because who knows whether or not they went back and put all that when everything was good to go. Like, because it's something that dealerships were using, like what information do they have? Like if you finance a vehicle, they have your social, they have your bank account, you might have given them a check from, you know what I mean? So like a lot more information than just not being able to get service, through a dealership could have been
But
complicated.
even in that situation, though, nowadays, the way cars are, having a make it in a model of a car, especially with all the computer and electronics that go into it, I mean, that's like exploits and ways to, take control of cars too. So that is almost sensitive, information in its own right. So, I mean, it's far reaching no matter what it is. Like, no cyber incident is just, oops, I tripped. A cyber incident is, the word incident is there for a reason. And that's why people need to get smart on all aspects of it. So listen to the podcast, The Other Side of the Firewall. Get these articles up, get this knowledge, and that way you have a good framework to make decisions upon.
Look, I need to trade my car in for an older model. Show me where to get these 99 crowns at, Daniel. Where I find
Right.
one of these? Man?
Computer with no or a car with no computer in it, right? No brain.
It's like Pacific Rim. It's like Gypsy Danger. It's analog, right? So like that's what we.
Right. I just think they need to define what material means. And they're just keeping it too ambiguous. Like, what does material mean? Like, they paid $25 million. Is that material? I don't know. Like, because it just could depend on. Like, I get the ambiguity because it depends on the size of the company, it depends on the industry, right? Like, if this had been like planes and trains, it'd have been a different deal than people's personal vehicles and PII. But I don't know. I just think they just need to rein in it a little bit more. I know they're working on it. They're trying to scope it in. I just think it needs to be reined in a little bit more, just to protect the public. Because, like, what if this was, again, planes in the sky or something like that, right? Like, would it have been more material then because it's impacting people directly, or what have you? We'll see. We'll see what 2025 looks like, because like now it exists, right? And people are actually reporting. So let's see how they tighten the screws and see. I would expect it to be like how you report, right? I think they just need to scope it in, but that's the 2025 problem. Also not my problem. So you got to take your victories where you can. Definitely continue to tune in throughout the week. So Monday and Tuesday are topics, Wednesday discussion, Thursdays Ask a CISSP, Fridays everything else, movies, books, games, all that good stuff. Hit us up by all the websites that go by our name. Hit me up personally. I'm at RyRy Security Guy. That's RYRY Security Guy. You can find me pretty much everywhere, but LinkedIn is my bread and butter. And where can they find you, Daniel?
LinkedIn under my name, Daniel Acevedo.
All right, everybody, stay safe, stay secure.